To be a reshoot, first ever reshoot. Um, Recorded a video earlier and got it all done and tried to upload it, and technical issues. I deleted it before I was able to upload it. So um, I'm going to talk about holidays as it relates to people that are in jail and prison, and how that kind of should be considered among people that are out in society, and people that are, also that are getting out, or may have been to prison at one point in their lives. Um, the holidays are a pretty strange time in society. They can be strange for the people that are out here. It's very stressful. To me, the holiday season, the major holiday season for the year, runs from Halloween really to after New Year's Day, and so for that, a few months, 3 months or so, from October to the first part of January, it is the holidays. I mean, it's fall is in the air. You have pumpkin spice everything, but Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Those are the major holidays that everyone thinks about. People have different attachments to other ones throughout the year, whether it's the 4th of July, whatever Festivus, whatever your holiday kick is. But regardless, it can be a very stressful time for anybody, and it's especially stressful for people that are in prison, because they're not able to interact with their family, their friends, their children, so on and so forth, like they would normally. And it's because of arguably their own choices. I fully realized that when I was in prison. I've never been really much of a holiday type person, but when you're in prison, that time away from family and friends and children, those kinds of things, it's magnified, and it hurts more. So it's something that needs to be considered, and it's something that I can relate and relay my experiences as it relates to that, with what happened at the holidays that I was in jail and prison. I want to preface this by saying that I served time. If you've seen any other videos on the channel, then you know that I've served time in Kentucky, and only Kentucky, except for one day in Indiana. That doesn't really count, but it does for jail credit, but it doesn't really count in the grand scheme of things. So my experiences will relate to time spent in Kentucky's prison system, and I was there from 2009 till 2015. So things have changed. They change every day. There's policies that are in place now that weren't in place when I was in custody, and there's policies that were in place then that aren't in place anymore. So things change, but that's just my time and core of experience. So the holidays are a pretty stressful time. Regardless, there's financial stress for Christmas, for getting your family and friends and kids Christmas presents. It's always kind of a stressor for a lot of people. Thanksgiving is kind of a big expense, and also typically, regardless of your religious affiliation or thought, I think people do feel more charitable during this time of the year, so they're more inclined to give and donate, which those donations hopefully aren't taken out of kind, as far as being too much for you to be able to actually afford, but people are more giving this time of the year. So a lot of workplaces tend to slow down. There's times that jobs are closed. So all those things come into play and have an effect on people's, this time of the year. But when you're in custody, it's a little different. So we'll talk about that. The first Christmas I ever spent in prison, as it were, was Christmas of 2010. I was on house arrest in the winter and Christmas of 2009, so I don't really count that. I mean, I was on house arrest. It was different. Couldn't leave the place that I was at. Couldn't drink, which, I mean, whether it's eggnog or a lot, you couldn't drink while you're on house arrest, and it's a condition pretty standard throughout the country. So 2010 was the first year that I was ever, in custody, and for the major holiday season. and that was spent at Green River Correctional Complex in West Kentucky. And, you know, that prison was different, and I'll say that. They had a warden that was there several years or sometime before. She was the warden for several years, but she was there before I arrived there in 2010. And one of the things that she did intentionally was she went out and sought churches in the area and other agencies and entities in the area in that, you know, that part of the state to kind of help out where they could. You know, Christmas time for the inmates that were there at that prison. And that's something, as far as I know, continues now. And Green River is one of the only places that does this. They have something called it's a Christmas carnival, is what they call it. You know, and basically they have churches and other agencies, but primarily churches, that'll come in, and they got my coffee going here. I'm trying to keep it off screen, but got my good old Stanley thermos here. See if it's still hot. It looks like it's still hot too. So this is going on about 8 hours or so, and it's still hot. So, oh yeah, still good. So, this warden down at Green River, she started this program, and it's something they continue to do. May still do it now, but they basically have a lot of churches and those kinds of folks come in, and they just basically give you stuff. It's a whole lot of hygiene, you know, body wash, shampoos, those kinds of things. Socks, t-shirts, things you may need, a bunch of other type things. And, you know, a lot of trading goes on. It's kind of a New Orleans type attitude about it on Mardi Gras. The prison staff knows that this stuff goes on. Everyone's got the same thing. They're not really fighting about it. They're just trading, which still is technically against the rules there. But, you know, say you don't like, you know, Milk Duds, and you've got 30 Milk Duds, and you want this, and the other guy that you know across the hall has a few of those, so you trade the Milk Duds or whatever happens. So, it's a neat thing they do. They also have the churches come in and they do Christmas carols in the dorms. Everybody's locked in at that point at night. But the point is that it's people taking time out of their day and out of their holiday season to come and sing to you or to give you things that you wouldn't ordinarily get. And that's the thing that's appreciated. You know, the staff knows that time of the year is not the best. And a lot of people have losses around the time of the year, or they have losses, and that loss is magnified by the holiday season. So, people are a lot more stressed in prison for that environment. The same with people out here are stressed. I mean, you've got someone that maybe committed suicide, someone that died, you know, whatever. And, you know, that's still there. Just because you're in prison doesn't mean that you don't feel those things too. So it, I don't know. Seems like they try to kind of relax some of the rules that they really kind of harp on, which is good. It not to say that you can do anything and everything you want because it's Christmas and say, oh, you can't lock me up, it's Christmas. Not how that works. But there is some relaxation of some of the things to make things a little less stressful. I can say that. But the schedule's kind of weird because a lot of your periods of instruction, your classes may be suspended during that time. If you go to the library a lot, the librarian typically takes his or her days off, you know, for the holiday season during that time, vacations or whatever. So you may have limited access to the library or to the gym or whatever. It's still there. They still let you go to those places, but it's not the way that it would be throughout the rest of the year. You know, jail versus prison, I mean, it is a lot different. When you're in jail, typically you're near family. When you're in prison, you can be anywhere throughout the state, and that applies throughout the country. Some prison systems have policies where they, on purpose, if you're from the East Coast or eastern side of the state, they put you on the western side, and vice versa. So Kentucky generally doesn't do that. It's just the way the prisons are spread out. They're pretty evenly spread out throughout the state, I think. They have a few in the eastern parts and a few in the western parts. So, and then northern and somewhat central, but nothing really in the southern part of the state. So, you know, it's holidays are a thing in and of themselves. And with I got out in 2015, so that certainly was before the pandemic that we're all in right now, and it has to be a lot worse, I would imagine, having holiday season and the pandemic. I saw a lot of great generosity and a lot of good things, and I also saw people get into fights on Christmas Day. The nothing really is different; it's just a different day. And someone may forget something or let something go, but they're going to remember it the next day. As far as the food, I mean, some places, a lot of places that I was at, they do try to do a different meal, an enhanced type meal, if you call it. It may or may not be all that's cracked up to be, but I mean, is it your family's Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner? No, it's not. But you're not at home. You're in prison. So there's an effort. I'll say it's a token effort. They could do a lot better. But then again, it comes back to you're in prison. You shouldn't really expect anything other than what you normally get anyway. But there's like from my memory, there's some like processed ham that's very heavily processed. Same thing with turkey. There's some like stuffing, some vegetables. The proportions are about what you'd expect. There's kind of a lottery on some of the items on that tray every year. Some people sell the entire tray, for the equivalent of like $5-10 in prison, which is a decent amount of money there. Could be half your month's pay for your job, whatever that you have through the prison system. So you sell your prison meal. Again, it's against the rules technically, but people do it, and not really anything they can do about it. They kind of tolerate it, it seems like. But and there's fights over those things, which it's just the nature of when you put men together and limit the food they can have and then put something special in front of them, and then they might fight over it. It happens. It's unfortunate, but it happens. The thing that I'll say about the holidays is that it's kind of typically tends to be a slowdown in work. It tends to be a slowdown in, a lot of visits may occur that day. On Christmas Day, if you're lucky to get a visit, then certainly that can happen. But right now, a lot of prisons are still in a kind of a lockdown type situation, so that's going to be restrained and face to face. And that's one thing where jails may have an advantage, because I know the jail in Jefferson County, it isn't a face to face visit; it's a TV monitor in a different building. But then again, you get to the people that are there have to deal with being close to each other. So I don't know. The holidays are difficult, and they don't get any less difficult because you're in prison. I would say it's probably more difficult. The thing that does help is getting messages or phone calls, emails. They have emails now they can do, but getting some kind of communication, whether it's a visit, an email, a letter, a call, out during that time of the year. So if you have relatives that are in prison or jail right now, and whether they've talked about it or not, that letter that they get around the Christmas time can be helpful. It can boost the morale and keep them maybe on the right track to not get into trouble, to get into trouble, to lose time or get put in segregation or whatever. So I guess that's it. Just if you have any questions or comments about my experiences as it relates to holidays in prison or jail, just let me know, and I'll try to answer them back. And thanks. I'll talk to you later. Be careful. Be safe. Take care of each other.